Welcome to Make Way, the podcast where we talk about access control and security in ways that hopefully our bosses at Suprema approve of. I'm Erik, your host, and I run the cloud business team here at Suprema. Today, I am joined by Mr. Drew Lee, our man on the ground in Australia. Drew is an expert in the security market in Australia. He's run his own distributorship, and now he is working with us at Suprema. Glad to have you here in Korea with us at HQ this week, Drew.
Thank you, Erik. Glad to be here.
It's not your first time in Korea, right?
No, I've been here a couple of times before.
Oh, really? I never would have guessed.
First thing, though, I need to correct you on something. I'm hardly an expert. I just know a lot of experts in the field, and what I've got is firsthand experiences from them. So it's secondhand for me.
Okay, so basically you can take everything that Drew says with a grain of salt. None of it's true. He's making it up on the spot. Get ready. Well, hey, look, let's dig into this, because my understanding is that the access and security market in Australia is kind of like your animals in Australia. They've taken this completely different evolutionary path, and you've got to be ready for some weirdness in that.
Yeah, there are definitely some unique traits about the way we do security in Australia.
Okay.
And I would say that has a lot to do with the actual physical environment as well. It's also a question of regulation. So in places like the UK, they're a lot more highly regulated than we are in terms of the security industry. We have very, very strong regulations in terms of the actual equipment that we use.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to the physical installation of it, we have some leeway.
Do you need to have like a low voltage license or anything like that when you're going in to install?
Yeah, so actually security licenses and electrician's licenses are completely separate. So one does not allow you to do the other.
Okay.
Although there are some cases where Sparkies will come and do a security install.
You call them Sparkies. That's
we call
great.
them Sparkies,
Yeah.
yes.
But you were telling me, we were talking about door locks the other day, and you were telling me that there's something like 4 different types of doors that all have to be fire tested separately at 25 grand a pop.
Yeah, so that's wild actually. We've got just a handful of companies that can do the testing for fire ratings. So depending on what kind of site you're using, the type of door that you're allowed to use is different. And each type of lock that you put on that door and the mortise that goes in it has to be tested in order to be able to use it.
Do those have to be done together, like the lock and mortise together, or is it a separate type
together?
of test?
Together
Okay.
every time.
So
So each one needs to be tested on every single type of door. And depending on the company, the price moves a little bit, but I think it's around $25,000 too.
So is that kind of barrier to entry keeping a lot of the foreign companies out of the market? Because I know you've got some companies like InnerRange, and depending on who's saying it, it's either Gallagher or Gallagher, something like that. Is this kind of regulation keeping outsiders out, or are outside companies thriving in Australia and able to compete just as well?
Yeah, definitely. So in places like Southeast Asia, you've got a lot of brands out there.
Right.
And even down from our office, there's a lot of different Korean brands. And as you know, in Korea, there's a digital door lock everywhere. There are kids that have never seen a key before in their lives. In Australia,
okay,
yeah.
Right. Yeah. In Korea here, I mean, I've been here for almost 20 years, and I've never had a physical key for my home here the entire time. It's always been either PIN code or fingerprint.
So in Korea, because there are so many different brands out there, there's a lot of competition and there's a lot of innovation. Everyone's trying to one-up each other in terms of what they can release. But in Australia, because of those fire ratings, like you say, it's hard for those companies to make an entrance. So unless you've got a lot of money to throw behind it, you're not really going to do it.
Assa
Abloy or Salto. So those are the 2 bigger brands that have got door locks in the market.
Got it.
We are seeing a few more brands coming in now, but there's a lot of private investment in getting those brands out there. But yeah, I think that'll improve in the next few years, because the demand for digital door locks is definitely increasing.
Yeah, and then on the access side, back around to that, I mean, I mentioned InnerRange before, I mentioned Gallagher. Are those the big players?
Yep, definitely. So InnerRange, Gallagher, sort of our home ground major players. InterRange, as you know, is now owned by Wesco,
Right.
but it's still very much a domestic brand for us. And there are a lot of installers who grew up on InterRange and cut their teeth in the market on it. So those two are the biggest brands. There's now ICT, which is a New Zealand brand that has come into Australia. It's making a lot of headway in the market as well.
Is it information control technology or something like that?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay, good guess.
That's exactly right. But they're making some headway with the products that they have because they're very affordable, easy to use, and their training programs are quite comprehensive as well.
Are the Chinese brands also making good headway then if it's price sensitive?
Well, not for access control. Okay. So for access control, maybe in the reader market. So if they have a keypad reader that's very cheap, maybe $20, $30 to attach to an InterRange panel or an ICT panel or a Gallagher panel, they might use that. But very rarely will you see Chinese readers in the market.
Got it. I mean, obviously, this is a Korean brand, Suprema, that we're working on, and Suprema is really known for its biometrics. Yep. So how are biometrics doing in the market?
That's a difficult question.
Is it a sensitive topic? I mean, I said at the beginning that we have to do this in a way that our overlords here at Suprema approve of. So are we getting into dangerous territory?
No, I mean, we are a little bit slower in uptake of new technology in Australia, but that's not because we don't want it. It's because we want it to work 100% of the time without failure. So the threshold for quality of the products is much, much higher. Okay. Now, not saying that Suprema products aren't high quality, but in terms of the integration and the way it's installed in Australia, is the requirements are quite high.
Because what you were telling me before as well was that some other technologies and credentials, like mobile credentials, are really pulling ahead, and things like digital identity are also really taking off. A lot of people have driver's licenses on their phones now.
Yeah, definitely. So we have now gone pretty much digital with our payments. There is a little bit of pushback just from the general public about keeping cash alive. But I think that's a conversation that's happening all around the world. But
your money is made out of plastic anyway,
yes,
right? Okay.
Yeah. So there's a lot of different countries.
Not in America.
Not in America.
Not in America.
Funnily enough, that plastic money is also run by an Australian company. I think an Australian company makes those for a lot of different nations. But with our digital payments, I think Australia has one of the fastest and highest uptake of digital payments around the world. So we're definitely comfortable with new technology. We just need it to be at a certain threshold in terms of quality.
Right. So reliability is a big issue. What about privacy concerns? I mean, that's what we always run into with biometrics. We have to educate people about, we're not actually storing your image in any way. We're just interpreting that into a template, and you can't find out how someone actually looks based on that. We've done a lot of work to talk about facial authentication versus facial recognition at Suprema. So how does that go over in Australia?
Well, most of our SIs are aware of what a hash is and they understand how it works. But often when we're dealing with the end user, as most people know, it's the fear factor that takes precedence. And there have been a few high value names in the Australian market who have tried face recognition through CCTV and other solutions, and that's left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. So we are all constantly fighting that.
Yeah, I mean, but I think that is the key distinction, right? The facial recognition and facial detection versus the facial authentication that we're doing on our readers.
Yes. So the Suprema solution is quite attractive because we can discard that image and we don't have to store that image if we choose not to. And we just store that hash, which you can't even turn back into a face on our readers.
Yeah. And AI is not there yet, right?
Right.
Wait until artificial general intelligence, then it's all over anyway. But let me pick up on one thing you said, though. You mentioned SIs. So every market is a little bit different. In Australia, when you say SI, do you mean system integrator or system installer?
Or both? I would differentiate an installer and an integrator. Yeah. I think most of the guys out in the field in Australia are installers.
Okay.
An integrator, I would consider someone who brings in a lot of different products from different brands and then builds a software solution of their own that integrates all of that. So they can market, not just plugging in different products, but actually programming the products to work with each other.
Are these installers big companies, or is it man in a van mostly?
Ooh, hard to say. A lot of guys that I speak to are small teams, so there might be 5 people. And anyone smaller than that will usually split their work halfway between their own projects and then subcontracting to the bigger guys.
Okay.
And then you have these 30, 40-man companies that will use their own stuff and also subcontract out. So those are the guys that usually I would call a system integrator.
Okay, cool. Good to know. Good to know. I'm also curious, obviously cloud is an important area for us. I heard that most Australian companies, like the larger companies, are looking at doing like kind of digital transformation and cloud migration for their back-end services. Is that true in access control as well?
There is definitely a move towards cloud in Australia. We see a lot of the big ACM brands moving to cloud, but at the moment, a lot of their solutions are just connecting the existing on-prem solution to the cloud via network.
So they want the control, but not necessarily the hosting?
Depends on the use case. So a lot of the government-related sites like schools, say, or hospitals, they will require an on-site solution, and there can be nothing in the cloud.
Regulatory.
Yes. But for private users, they don't mind the use of the cloud, but they may require that cloud to be hosted in
Australia.
Yeah.
Got it. I think this kind of dovetails us into one of the things you mentioned before, which was the geographical differences in Australia. I mean, it's a vast country. How far across is it from one end to the other?
I don't know that number exactly, but we're about
so disappointing.
We're about as big as the States, or about as big as China. I don't think people realize how big Australia actually is.
Right.
When they think of America and China, they think huge chunks of land, but Australia is exactly the same.
Right. Because, so you're based in New South Wales, which is on the far east side.
Yep.
And then to Perth in Western Australia. How long is that flight?
It's a 5-hour flight.
So 5-hour flight.
Long 5-hour flight.
So that's a very, that's a very long distance.
Yeah, it's shorter to go to New Zealand. It's faster to go to New Zealand.
Yeah. Next country over is closer.
Yeah.
But what challenges does that bring, that geographical vastness? How does that shape the market?
So because that land is so vast, and like say if you're based in Sydney, in a day you might be covering 2 sites if you're busy, and then they might be 60 Ks from one end to the other.
Okay, so rolling a truck is expensive.
Rolling a truck is expensive, yes.
And you don't, I guess you have a lot of regional or very local SIs, because if you're based in Sydney, you're not going to be servicing customers in Melbourne and Adelaide and other big cities.
Yeah, actually a lot of SIs in Australia move around state to state, and they do a lot of jobs in other cities. But the trouble comes when you have to service those sites. So previously, an average SI, they might get a call saying, hey, these 2 cards don't work, or I need to learn in 3 more users. And you would have to go on site to physically do the onboarding, or ship out physical cards, and there's a time delay.
Right.
Or if there's just a power issue, but you can't get the end user to troubleshoot it, you have to drive hours to get out there just to figure out that the PoE switch isn't plugged in, or if the cable's loose, or something silly like that. And that brings us back to the cloud thing.
Right.
Is that you don't have to deal with those problems anymore. So if it's got a cloud solution attached to the ACM, you can now service that site from wherever you are. You don't need to drive 3 hours on site just to
troubleshoot a few basic things. Yeah. I mean, have you run into that? We should talk about this. This is self-serving, right? I mean, I'm in charge of cloud at Suprema, so obviously I'm going to talk about it. Are you seeing this actually out in the field, where cloud is the salvation of these SIs that don't have to drive out and be on the road for hours to fix something?
Well, that's actually huge, because if you're based, say, in Sydney and you've got a customer in Newcastle, that's a 3-hour drive.
Okay.
And we all know that end customers, they have their own business to run, and they just want their system to work. So the call isn't a calm, collected, hey, this has happened and I think it's A, B, C, and D, but I'd like you to check that.
Yeah, I'm just imagining this in my head.
Yeah, your stuff doesn't work. Come and fix it. Come now. And
yeah, except they don't say stuff. They say something else.
Exactly. And then you've got to either drive out there yourself or you've got to send one of your texts, and that's just a day gone. And it's just a lot of cost for absolutely nothing. You've already finished the job. You've already been paid. Unless you've got a very comprehensive maintenance contract, that's money out your pocket for what's potentially a very small problem.
And I think that you also have a lot of these kind of remote sites like mining operations, power substations, that kind of thing, where there's no connectivity at all, at least not with wired internet. So how are you handling those sorts of situations?
Yeah, so actually that's really interesting because we do have a lot of sites where there's not a lot of infrastructure. Our mobile coverage is quite good. Our national coverage for mobile phones, I think it's like 93% or something like that. So our mobile coverage is good, but we don't have cable laid out everywhere like Korea does. To get internet, we have NBN, we now have Starlink, but in terms of physical wiring, it's hard. And if you're on a farm, say, or a warehouse, to cable from an access point out to wherever you need to get connected, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of cabling as well. And cabling is where the largest cost is.
Always on any site, I think. Cabling is going to be more expensive than the readers in a lot of cases.
Definitely. And one thing that Suprema does actually is you can actually install a product, a reader on the wall with just power, and then manage that online. And you've got an access control system with very low wiring, very low cost. And that's actually being the key factor in getting our foot in the door in the market there.
Right. I mean, what you're talking about is using the mobile credentials to activate the readers and to pass the logs back to the server in the cloud so that you don't need a physical connection to the reader for the internet. But then at the same time, the mobile credential as well doesn't need to be immediately connected to the cloud either, because it can be validated and then it can pass the log back up to the cloud later if necessary.
Yeah, and that's not a feature that most people expect with an offline reader.
Right.
The moment you tell people, we can actually get all the logs, you can see everything that's happened, and it's happening through your phone. That's brilliant. It makes perfect sense, but no one's ever done that before.
Right. Well, I was talking to some of our colleagues from another region of the world this morning, and he was asking, when can we do this with RFID cards as well? And I hedged on that. I don't want to commit to anything at this point, right? Because that's difficult to do. But it's amazing as a product idea. So anybody watching who wants to steal that idea, hands off. I said it here first.
Wait, so are you giving us a spoiler about that?
No.
Because I haven't heard about this either.
No.
This is new.
Interesting ideas, right? Because if you have an entirely offline system that maybe uses something like data on mobile or data on card, and then there's a way to put that information back into a cloud server later.
Right.
That's interesting for some customers.
Right. Okay.
But I'm not saying that we're working on that right now. I'm not saying that the people on the other side of this wall are actively coding that at the moment, because they're not. They're not. I don't think.
I'll check later.
Yeah, you check. I think that's a good overview of the market, but what are some of the other specific areas that you're seeing opportunities in with access control? Where's the industry growing? What are you, Drew, specifically interested in?
So this is a weird phenomenon. I don't know if it's happening anywhere else in the world, but in Australia, gyms are booming right now. It is one of the largest growing industries in Australia just this year.
Everybody's really fit. Or they want to be.
I want to be. I'm not quite there yet. Maybe I need to sign up to another gym. But the uptake of gym memberships is quite high at the moment. And so I feel like there are a lot of new gyms opening. So the access control needs of these gym chains and these small boutique ones are increasing as well. So there are a lot of Pilates studios opening up as well. There are these new Pilates chains that are popping up everywhere.
So you can go to multiple branches, multiple locations.
So we have a few big name gyms, and they're all pretty much 24-hour gyms, and there's cross-site credentials, so you can use your membership here and there, and then the billing sort of changes automatically depending on where you're going the most. And now I'm seeing that these Pilates studios are doing the same thing, and it's just growing in every city.
Is that cross-branch credentialing a challenge for them, getting it to work kind of seamlessly, the memberships to work seamlessly, branch to branch with the access control?
I think there are a handful of companies that service gyms specifically at that scale.
Okay.
And they were, up until recently, very much RFID card-based.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not too sure about what systems that they're using, but I did see recently that Anytime Fitness had introduced a mobile credential, and the uptake for that has been, I think, quite high according to Anytime Fitness.
Right. Because I'm hoping we have something to announce publicly soon with what we're working on with gyms as well.
Yeah. No, there's definitely some opportunities that in the pipe for us with Suprema. There is a gap there that I think we fill quite nicely, just in terms of the usability and with that cost, and not just in terms of dollar value, but the cost in terms of the staff members' time, and managing that and the complexity. It's so user friendly that it's very easy for just a gym canner person to manage the credentials.
Right. I mean, that's one of the things we've always talked about in the context of co-working spaces as well, right? Is that it used to be that you had to have someone who was glued to that front desk full time, because that person had to basically give out new cards to new members, take back cards from departing members. All that kind of stuff had to be done by a person putting it in. And then if you've got something like a mobile credential, you can easily provision that to somebody, even if they're not physically present. You can revoke that. You can make sure that all the guests also have a credential so that they're not just wandering around and you're like, oh, is that person supposed to be here or not? Well, if they're inside, then they have a credential, so they should be there.
Actually, that sort of low touch, unmanned facility,
right?
That's sort of moving to other industries as well. I'm seeing a lot of gyms wanting to do that. I'm seeing a lot of hotel and boutique accommodation sites wanting to do that. So there's this what do you call it, movement, this trend where developers are buying up the older buildings,
right,
and refurnishing them as boutique accommodation. They are trying to rebuild them as unmanned accommodation. So you'll book online, you'll get issued a credential, and then you get access to the building in your room automatically, and you'd never see another staff member.
So the cost of labor is driving this, or just the need to do something with that real estate? What's behind?
I think it's more the real estate opportunity than the cost of staff. We are definitely seeing issues with being able to hire the right people. I think that's the same trend everywhere in the world right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but the trend definitely is toward just making use of that real estate. There are a lot of good opportunities in terms of the older buildings just outside of the metropolitan areas, so more regional areas. There are buildings just left there. And as you know, after COVID, there was a large shift of the demographic from the cities into the regional areas. So now you've got this larger population, a little bit more money, a little bit more economic movement as well. So there's more need for accommodation, other facilities, entertainment, things like that. So,
entertainment. And I mean, back to co-working again as well. I think one of the things that we've talked about in Australia is that regional shift that happened elsewhere. Everybody moved out to the suburbs during COVID. In a lot of places, in the US, you see stories about people going back into the city afterwards. But in Australia, it seems like they stayed.
I think the same thing that happened in the States is happening in Australia right now.
So they are starting to go back to the city now.
There are a lot of companies mandating that people return to work, return to the office. But that's been harder for people to actually implement in their life. There's a lot of pushback that people like working from home. I mean, it's understandable, right? You don't have to pay for cost for transport. You don't have to worry about where you're going to eat or what you're going to wear. You can just get up and do your work and then be done with it.
I mean, everybody could just wear it. It's pretty much short, and it makes it easy. It makes it very easy.
Exactly right. So there is a bit of pushback. I think working from home is definitely going to be something that stays. But anyone who's worked from home for a while will know how old that gets.
Okay.
And even myself, when I work from home, it gets old pretty quickly, and I need to get a change of space. So I will go sign up for a co-working space or something like that. Cafes are great, but you can't do that every day.
Right,
So
right.
dedicated working space is very good to have.
I mean, I'm personally glad to hear that, because if people were just working at home, it's terrible for our industry because nobody puts an access control reader on their house. But if they're moving into co-working spaces that are closer to home, I think that's a good thing overall. I mean, one of our customers there in Australia, I know, is ICO,
Yep.
which is basically what you described as an unmanned or lightly manned co-working space, right? So the owner actually, if I remember the story correctly, because you can control the system remotely, the owner was able to give tours to prospective members from Sydney while the co-working space was in, so was it Maitland or something like that?
Yeah.
I'm probably butchering the pronunciation, but
No, Maitland's correct. So just outside of Newcastle. And the owner of ICO Creative actually lives in Sydney, but he travels quite a bit.
Mhm.
But he also likes to give tours of the site to his clients personally. So he'll be on the phone and then walk the potential client through the space, just over the phone. And then if they say yes and they sign up, he just issues them a credential on the spot.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool.
So I mean, it's very slick, right? Once you see it all installed and everything, it's a very slick solution to use, and it's also very slick as an end user to experience just walking out a door, having it open for you, and then having that, having those spaces allocated to you as you need.
Right. I mean, look, Drew, we've covered a lot. We've covered co-working gyms, remote sites out in the middle of nowhere for mining. I think the only thing maybe we haven't talked about that you told me before was a market trend was this build to rent trend in Australia now.
Yeah.
I mean, in Korea, everything is like condos, basically. The one person owns it and then rents it out. We don't really have that here. Whereas in the US, I think that's mostly all they had with apartments. So tell me, what is this build to rent trend in Australia?
So in Australia, we have a bit of a housing crisis. And this is a very touchy subject for a lot of people because what used to be just part of the Australian lifestyle, being able to buy your own house, live in it, and then grow your family in it.
Right.
That's a bit of a pipe dream now.
Okay.
So part of the government response to that situation is the implementation of build to rent accommodation. So the idea is that these high-rise apartment buildings are built purely for rental. You can't buy it. You don't get kicked out as long as you pay your rent. And the idea is that you could treat the site like your own house without worrying about So you can put nails in the wall, whatever you need to do.
So is it public housing?
No, it's not public housing. So it's not government funded. It's privately funded. There's a lot of government incentive to promote build to rent projects. But, it's still a rental and people will move out eventually. The pricing, because I was looking to live in one of those buildings as well.
Oh, okay.
So the prices were slightly higher than what you'd pay for a normal apartment. But they also include a lot of amenities like a gym or a pool or a co-working space inside the building. And
I guess that's where we get into it from the access control perspective as well, is how do you integrate those amenities into the access and make sure that everything works together seamlessly.
Correct. So a lot of these amenities are quite nice. I wouldn't balk at paying just for the facilities and not the accommodation.
Right.
Like the gym that I saw in the local build to rent near my house, that was nicer than the gym I'm at.
Okay.
So if they said, hey, you can buy a credential, you can buy a membership to this one, I wouldn't mind paying for it. But no,
you're exploring new business models now entirely.
I mean, some of these places have cinemas inside.
Okay, wow.
And libraries, and they're very slick.
How many units in these kinds of buildings?
Hundreds. So usually 200 to 300, I think. Right.
So if a company out there were doing an access control project for these new build, you do all the cabling, you do all the spec in, and then you've got hundreds of readers or door locks going on the individual doors for the units. Then you've got the main access doors, the parking, and then all of these amenities as well. Correct. Yeah, I could see this being big. Is there any government regulation on what kinds of companies can go in on these for access?
Not really, not in terms of what companies are allowed. It's more about, like we said before, the fire ratings and
Right.
the energy saving requirements for these buildings. So there are a lot of incentives for builders based on how energy efficient your building is.
Okay.
And we're seeing that a lot with the new builds in terms of lift control. So instead of having just a regular button now, we'll have lifts that tell you which lift to use to go to which floor.
Yeah.
It's specified for you at the lobby.
So an integrated elevator system. Correct. As well.
Yeah. And you get a lot of points for that, which reduces your fees and yeah.
So I think that, this residential angle makes me think about the security aspect, which we haven't talked about as much. And I understand that in Australia, alarms are especially important, and that, you kind of started out with this alarms market that migrated toward access, but the two are really still intertwined.
Yeah, I know that in other markets, they are completely separate. So you don't have, but in some markets, zero crossover between your access control and your alarm system. But in Australia, we like to have them all integrated as one piece.
Right.
And there are a few different reasons for that.
What are they? Don't leave me hanging.
We assume that anyone who's really motivated will get into a space. It doesn't matter if you have a $3,000 reader on your wall. $2 brick will get through a window.
Right.
So we worry about not just the access, but also what happens after someone's inside. So we'll have sensors and alarms integrated with our access control to track whether a badge coincides with movement inside the building. And then we like to track that movement within the site.
So, and this is all monitored alarm service. Correct. Too, then. Okay.
Correct. I did hear that monitored alarms are sort of on the downward trend.
Why is that?
I'm not exactly sure what the reason for that is. It might be purely a distance thing because, like we were talking about before, because there's a lot of land cover, it's hard to issue quick patrols to a site. Yep.
So instead, does the building owner get an alert, or the business owner get an alert, or something like that, so that they can go respond to their own call?
For a security incident, I think that goes directly to the monitoring station. Okay. And then they would either send a patrol or they'll call the police. I don't think there are any cases where it goes directly to the police anymore.
Or directly to the home, like the building owner. Or
right. I know in the UK, you have to run a line directly to the police. So they don't send patrols, they actually send the police to you.
Right.
Yeah. So we have that difference as well.
Got it. Yeah. I mean, it's night and day difference versus what we've got here in Korea, because violent crime is extremely rare. And on top of that, the alarm services are all owned by the telecom companies that have a real lock on that, for lack of a better word.
So what happens in Korea if there's an alarm that goes off?
So you can get the patrol service as well that will come out and look at the site. They've even got their cars with the flashy lights on top, and drive out to your site. But they aren't really able to do anything about it if they find that something is wrong. They just have to contact the police. So they investigate only.
So it's similar to what we have in Australia, but I'm assuming it's a lot faster here.
Probably. I mean, it's dense. It's dense here.
Right.
If you look out the windows here, you just see nothing but endless apartment blocks with some mountains behind.
Right.
So,
okay. So a call out would be maybe 5 minutes?
That seems long. I don't know.
All right. I think that would be considered very, very short for Australia.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Just getting to the end of your block would take 5 minutes. Yeah.
Well, you don't want to run over anybody. All those people in the streets.
No.
So is there anything that I'm missing about the Australian market? Is there anything about security, alarms, access control in Australia?
I think the access control market in Australia is shifting. A lot more installers are aware of the products in the international market. So although we've had a hard struggle selling biometrics in Australia, I'm seeing a lot more inquiries about getting facial recognition. We tried and failed with fingerprint, but I think that has more to do with the attempts for fingerprint by other companies in Australia many, many years ago than anything to do with us. But definitely facial recognition is on the rise. There is a ease in terms of convenience, but also the level of security that we can offer with our devices, very high. When you tell people that the devices that we're showing them are the same device that go in data centers police stations, federal police, prisons, and places like that. But it's quite accessible and affordable.
Right.
They're a lot more open to it.
So the third-party validation really helps.
Yeah, it does. And like we were talking about before, the uptake of digital and new technology, we're very open to new technologies. It just needs to work.
As long as it works.
Yeah, as long as it works.
So you're not necessarily like the very early stage of the adoption curve, but you're not at the peak of the adoption curve either.
Yeah, we're definitely not early adopters.
Yeah.
But having said that, once we started testing digital ID, so we have digital driver's licenses in New South Wales, and that functions as your ID wherever you go.
Are those enabled for wireless communication with anything as well, so that it could act as an access credential somewhere, or is it just living on your phone and the police have some way of verifying that this is you?
So we do that in a very small way. So we have something called RSLs in Australia, so Retired Servicemen's League.
Okay.
I don't know what the American equivalent of that is.
I think this is it's kind of like a drinking club or something like that.
Veteran affairs,
okay,
VA clubs.
Okay, like maybe? Back in their heyday, maybe those are no longer as great as they used to be.
Right.
But yeah.
So you'd go there on a Sunday for an affordable meal, like a roast and veg, and play some pokies or watch the sports or something like that. But you need to show ID to get in, because obviously it's a gaming venue or
I see.
They're licensed, right? So if you don't have your ID on you, you can actually use your digital ID, and they can cross-check your digital ID to create a temporary membership for you.
Oh, okay.
So you always need to either sign up or sign in.
So it sounds like the security is taken very seriously there.
It is.
Anyway.
It is actually. No, now that you mention
instant membership.
Now that you mention it, the security is always quite stringent in an RSL.
Okay.
It's very hard to get in if you don't have ID or a membership. So it always used to be, you pay $5 or $11 to sign up for a year or 7 years or whatever it is, just to get a meal, right? But now, if you actually use your license app or government services app, you can temporarily sign into that venue just from that. And that's any venue. It's all connected via network.
Yeah, well, you heard it here first. The next big thing for access control is Retired Servicemen's Leagues in Australia.
Yeah, so that's a big thing. We also have sports clubs. So individual sports clubs will have a similar venue like that. And it's the same situation. Yeah.
All right, great. Well, look, Drew, we've covered a lot. I really appreciate you being generous with your time to tell everybody about what's going on in the access control market, the security market in Australia. This has been our very first episode, so it's good to have you as a guest for this. Drew and I go back several years now, and it's always great when he comes out to visit us at headquarters in Australia, in Korea. All right, thanks a lot, Drew.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your time.
Yeah.